Hi, I'm Sully, and this week I made this little monstrosity. This week I modeled a sci-fi test tube, pixel textured by hand in Blender. I thought it'd be a simple one, but it turns out making glass with pixels is kind of weird. So in this breakdown, I'll show you how the model came together, checkpoint by checkpoint. Fair warning, this model still needs some polish, and I'm definitely figuring it out as I go, so if you've got any feedback, your comments would be greatly appreciated. Also, this model is part of a sci-fi lab pack I'm working on. I'll be releasing it on Ko-fi soon. Links in the description if you want to check that out later. All right, let's get into it. So this is the first object that I made for the test tube. The first modeling stage is just to get the silhouette of the object. Now you'll notice this bottom part is not quite just a cylinder. To get this shape, I added a mesh of a cylinder with like 8 vertices or something tiny. Because I'm going for a low poly look, and then a UV sphere with 8 segments, 4 rings. It gives this nice rounded bottom without too many vertices. So I basically just went into edit mode, selected all these top vertices, and deleted them. So then I just took this top edge loop on the sphere and joined it with the bottom vertices of the cylinder. So then I remembered there's this entire inside part that I forgot to model. If you just delete the top face off of the cylinder, you get a bunch of invisible planes. So I have to actually make the inside part. And so you'll see that I just basically made it the cylinder except smaller. And I made sure to make the top part of the cylinder flush with the other outside part. Okay, so with this object, I joined the two. So now they're one object, and I added this little tiny liquid level face here. So whenever I model the liquid, we'll have it in the cylinder. Okay, this is where the struggle really began. Up to this point, I've basically just been modeling a low poly object, but now I had to figure out how glass works. So you'll notice here that I'm using the cycles renderer instead of the Eevee renderer. And that's because that's really the only way to have the glass BSDF work, which is what's making it look like glass. So you'll also see that there's like this liquid plane that you can see through. While this works, it doesn't really fit the pixelated vibe. Like the liquid just really stands out. I mean, even more than just the fact that it's just a plane. It just doesn't really look quite right. So here we have a new style, and it fits a lot better with the pixelated look. And you'll also see it's kind of working in a weird way. You'll notice that since I have it selected, you can see the outside border. If I go to edit mode, you can see exactly what the geometry looks like. So there's these planes that just aren't being shown. Now up to this point, I've been using the solid shading mode, and I've been using studio with the material. Those are the default settings. But now that I'm adding the texture, I'm changing it to flat so that we have flat lighting without shadows and stuff, because that looks best with pixelated models. And then we're changing this to texture to show the color. So this actually shows the actual texture here in solid mode shading. So another thing I did to mock the glass look was reversing the inside normals. Originally, this is what the test tube looked like. You can't see the liquid inside because it's not actually see-through. So to fix this, I reversed the normals of the inside of the tube. So I'll just hide the liquid real quick to make this easier. Select the inside of the tube, press Shift N to recalculate the normals, and then just do that for all the inside. Sometimes you have to click this inside button. And then I'll unhide the liquid. So this method makes the liquid visible while also showing the inside of the glass on the opposite side. Just make sure to make this work, you also have to enable backface culling in the shading menu. So essentially, with the use of backface culling and not texturing the outside planes, we get this kind of look that follows the camera, almost like glass would. Now, obviously this doesn't look great yet, but it's a starting point. So on this next model, we make actually quite a big jump. Basically what we do is we make the distance between the outside plane and the inside smaller so that it looks more like the size that it should be. Before it was kind of slimmer than I feel like it should have been. I also added this lip here and textured it. And let me show you the texture actually. So far the texture looks like this. I haven't really gone super in depth on how I'm texturing this. I'll probably make a video in the future talking about this technique. I just don't want to spend too much time on it. This is already kind of turning out to be a longer video. But yeah, adding this lip adds a lot to the look and makes it look a lot better. But also you'll notice that the liquid has now been separated into another object and made a little bit smaller. And I think this adds to the look so much. It looks so much better than it did before. It actually kind of looks like a test tube right now. Now it's just the colors I need to fix because this color palette just isn't really working for me. I think it looked a lot better for Art of Soli because, I mean, Zelda has its own palette, obviously, but also with this bottle, I feel like the blue works a lot better. But with a test tube, it kind of just doesn't make as much sense. So we're going to change that. All right, and this brings us to the final model. You'll see that there are actually quite a few changes that I made here. So number one, the colors I feel like match this a lot better. They're not perfect for sure, but I think they look a lot better. And I also added, I think the shading is a little bit better up here. So this is the texture that I'm using here. And you'll notice that I basically just added a lot more gradient to the pixel effect. So it looks more pixelated. The shadows look better simulated, like right here, especially. That looks actually, I think, quite good. Another thing I did with the liquid is that I added this kind of convex shape, which is, I feel like, a lot more representative of what liquid actually does in a test tube. So in the end, this is what it looks like in Godot. Now you'll notice that there's this weird kind of color effect to the liquid. I'm not really sure why that's happening. I'm going to need to do a few adjustments, but this is a pretty good start. Also, if you're exporting and you find that backface culling isn't quite working for you, make sure that your render engine is set to Eevee, and then go to your material, and then make sure that backface culling camera is set or checked. And then this should export properly. But yeah, not perfect yet, but a very good start and an actual interesting look that exports into Godot, which is super exciting. So I'm excited to polish this a bit more and to, try to figure out new techniques to make this pop a little bit more. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more pixel textured sci-fi model breakdowns like this, I'm planning to post a new one every other week. So maybe consider subscribing if you're into that sort of thing. So anyway, that's all for me, and I'll see you in the next one.